Hey guys, this is video 1 for box and whisker notes. Today we are learning how to create box and whisker plots. Box and whisker plots are simply just graphs that display data using 5 key points of the data set. A couple terms I want to review off the bat were lower quartile, and that is the median, or in other words the middle of the lower half of the data. The upper quartile, which is the median of the upper half. And to find the interquartile range, that is simply when we take the upper quartile number and we subtract it from the lower quartile number. Just like when we find a range of a data set, when we take the biggest minus the smallest, it's the same thing, except we just use the quartiles. To create a box and whisker plot, we need 5 pieces of data. And if I zoom in here, the 5 pieces of data that we need for a box and whisker plot, the first thing we need to find is the median. That's going to be step 1, find the median. After we find the median, we will want to find our upper and lower quartiles that we just talked about. We want to find our upper quartile and our lower quartile. And we will also want to find the upper extreme and the lower extreme. You're probably asking yourself, what are those? So we have not talked about those. I know they sound maybe kind of difficult, but they're actually really, really easy. The upper extreme, the extreme simply means what is the biggest number in our data set? Biggest number. And the lower extreme is simply just the smallest number in our data set. So those are the things we need. A box and whisker plot, when we are done, it will look something like this, where we will have a dot, 5 dots, and the outside ones will be our whiskers. The 2 ones connecting our whiskers will create a box. And the one in the middle will kind of have a line in the middle there, and that is an example of a box and whisker plot. Each box and whisker plot will look different. Sometimes we might have really long whiskers with a really small box. Sometimes we might have a really long box with really small whiskers. And it's even okay if you have a box and whisker plot that has one really long whisker and one short whisker. That's okay. All those are possible ways a box and whisker might look like. It just depends on the data. So let's go and look into our first box and whisker plot. So like I said on our list above, it says our first thing we have to do is find the median. Well, in order to find the median, we have to have the numbers in order from least to greatest, and I went ahead and did that for us already. I have our numbers down here and from least to greatest, so here is our data set. It says use the data set to make a box and whisker plot. So I've rearranged numbers in order from least to greatest. Step 1 is to find the median. So I do that by crossing numbers off one at a time, and when I do that, I should end up with the number 24 as my median. So that number is important to us. That is our median. I will then need to find the lower quartile. So take that one off, that one. My lower quartile is going to be 18. Find the upper quartile, or the middle of the upper numbers. That's going to be 35. The smallest number in our data set is 12. So it will be our lower extreme. And the biggest number in our data set is 36. So it will be our upper extreme. So really, guys, it's that easy to find the data points. It's the middle point, in the middle of the upper half, the middle of the lower half, and then the smallest and the biggest numbers. Once I have those, I will go ahead and plot all 5 of those numbers on my graph. I will plot these numbers above the number line. I know when we did inequalities, we plotted it on the number line, but for this, we will plot it above the number line. So my first one's 24. First one's 24. My second number is 18. And then 35. Then I have 36. And I have the number 12. So all I've done there is plot the numbers on the graph that I found over there. Once I have plotted my numbers, I will go back and draw in my lines. Like I said, the whiskers won't always be the same size, so you notice I have one long whisker and one short whisker there. That's fine. And then I will draw in my box using the next two inside dots. And then a dot in the middle. We'll have a line going straight through it. So it looks like that. That is a box and whisker plot where we use the median, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, the lower extreme, and the upper extreme to show that graph, or to create that graph. All right, let's do another example. This time I have a few more data points, but that's okay. And it says use it to make a box and whisker. I still need the 5 same pieces of data that I needed last time. I need to start off with finding the median. So if I zoom in a little bit to find the median, one there, 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 one there. I am left with the number 25 as my median. So my median is 25. I then need to find my lower quartile. That's the middle of the lower half, which would be 19 is my lower quartile. And so the upper quartile over there, that'd be 42. So my lower is 19, my upper is 42. I then need to find my lower extreme and upper extreme. My smallest number is 16, and my biggest number is 47. So step 1 is to find those data points. Once I have those data points, I can go ahead and graph those numbers on my number line. So I have the number 25, which would be, get rid of those, 25 would be right there. Then I have the number 19 right there. 42 would be right above that. 16 is right there. And 47 would be right there. So remember the outside 2 dots on each side create your whiskers. So there's a whisker there. That's not very straight. Whisker there. Whisker there. Then you make a box using these 2 right here. You draw a line through that one right there. Ooh, that's not even close. There we go. And that is a box and whisker plot. Last thing on this note before we move on is where we will have to answer some questions about box and whisker plots. So this shows us the number of wins the New York Yankees and Arizona Diamondbacks had through the years of 1998 through 2005. The top graph is our Yankees box and whisker plot, and the bottom graph is our Diamondbacks box and whisker plot. The first question, number 2, says, which team had the greater median number of wins? Well, the median is the middle number. So when we look at box and whisker plot, it'll be our middle dot. So the median number of wins, the Yankees, well, if I zoom in a little bit on the Yankees, the middle dot is this one right here. It's this line going through it. And that's approximately 100 wins. For the Diamondbacks, the middle dot, the line that goes through the box, is right there. So they had about 85 on median. So which team had a greater median? Well, the Yankees had 100 compared to 85, so that would be the New York Yankees. I hate when it does that. The Yankees. Question 2 says, which team has the greater interquartile range of games won? Well, the interquartile range is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. And when we look at the graph, if it's asking which has a greater interquartile range, that's simply asking which one had a larger box portion of the graph. So which one here had a larger box? Well, that would be the Arizona Diamondbacks. That's because they had the bigger box. And the last thing says which team appears to have a more predictable performance. And this is probably the most useful thing from a box and whisker plot. When we look for predictability, we only look at the box because the whiskers can be really long or really short based on an outlier. And we've talked about outliers in the past, where one number kind of skews the data. So we're not looking at that here. We're looking simply at the size of the box. And if you think about data, the more compact it is, the more predictable it is. If I'm looking at how many miles I run each day, and if I listed off, say, 8 miles and 9 miles and 8 miles and 8 miles and 9 miles and 10 miles and 8 miles and 7 miles, and I asked you how many miles would you expect me to run tomorrow, I'm guessing your guess would be somewhere around 8 or 9, because that's where all the other data is. It's all very similar to that. It's very compact. But say I was talking about the same question, but say I ran, this is the second part of the question, what if I asked you to predict my performance now, and I say I ran 2 miles, then 17, then 45, then 1, then 0, then 90. Like, you'd have no idea where to start for a guess because it varies so much. The data is so spread out there, it's hard to predict. So if I ask you which one is more predictable, this one means the smaller box. So this would be the Yankees because it has a smaller box. Great. So hopefully that made sense. There will be a second video, so watch that. But please make sure to go through and look these notes over. I will do my best to post these on Canvas as well. But